Chadi, thank you so much for joining me today on the show. How are you?
I am happy.
That is an amazing response. And I'm loving that energy because I'm really happy too. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation. We were just chatting a little bit offline about your origin story. And I was like, stop. Let's put a pin in that. I actually want to get this on the recording. So why don't you, if you know, for those who are not yet familiar with your story, tell us a little bit about where you are today and kind of how you got there.
You got it. How about we'll just start where I was to how I got here today. We'll
Okay.
do it backwards. So we'll give you guys a little bit of a resume. My name is Chadi Bazzi, and I've been directly and indirectly in the real estate industry now for over 20 years. Started selling real estate in 1996, I think 1996. Yeah, around the time my son was born in Dearborn, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. Did very good very quickly in that marketplace, and I wanted to make a lot of money, and my average commission check was about $800, so couldn't get to the $100,000 mark unless I sold over 100 homes, etc. And at that time I was getting into personal development and listening to audio programs, and I actually went to interview to become a buyer's agent somewhere before. Now I'm backing up a little bit, and the top producer in the marketplace pretty much said to me, well, I think you're kind of like not ready right now, but here's an audio program. And he gave me a Mike Ferry Superstar Retreat audio program. And at that time, I was like delivering pizza and selling real estate at the same time. And delivering pizza, for 12, 13, 14 hours a day. What did I do? I burned through the audio program and I just memorized the heck out of the audio program, applied what was in the audio program. My first listing was a for sale by owner, and started doing very good very quickly. And then I was like, I want to make a lot more money. So I was like, I need an education. I really never graduated from college or anything like that. So I decided to sell my house and move to Newport Beach, California, where Mike Ferry is. And I went to work for the Mike Ferry organization, where I really got my real education, and became the number one sales representative in that company very quickly. Got to the point to where before I left, I was running the internal one-on-one coaching department for the sales staff. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm around all these big thinkers, Stephanie. I'm already at six figures now a year, but these guys are making six figures a month. I want to make six figures in a month. What would that be like? So I went and had a conversation with Mike, and I said, Mike, I'm ready to resign. And he just looked at me and he said, resignation declined, but here's a six-figure raise for you to stay. So I called up my dad and I said, Dad, I just got a six-figure raise. What should I do? He's like, you stay. What would a dad say? Six-figure raise. So I stayed there for not even 30 days, but every day during the 30 days, Stephanie, I felt like I was bought, like somebody bought me.
Hmm.
And I got the emotion of like, this guy sees something in you that you're not seeing in yourself. You need to discover what that is. So I went directly into real estate here in Orange County, and inside of the first 30 days, because I had the right mindset and I had the right skill set, took my first listing in the first 24 hours, put over $100,000 worth of deals together in my first 30 days. Tom Ferry took notice of that, and that's when he had split off with his dad and said, hey, come help me in my company. And got to the point where I was the number one coach in the company, never had less than 140 one-on-one coaching clients. At that time, trained the coaches that were underneath that umbrella at that time, created products underneath that umbrella, and been on over 30,000 coaching calls ever since. And that's pretty much the quick resume.
Oh my gosh, what a journey for you. So you basically know everything there is to know behind the business of real estate. Just about. It's always changing, right?
What I love about my position right now is that, yeah, I learned from my experience, but I learned a lot through the experience of other people.
Right.
Having the opportunity to be on so many coaching calls, you get to experience different people at different levels, and with time and a lot of study, and really having a clear understanding of human psychology, you'll know which buttons to push to bring out the best in people. So I'm forever grateful for all the training I've been through.
Yeah, I love it. And that's actually where I'd like to spend some time today with you, is discussing and understanding what that looks like. So from the perspective of sales psychology, Where can real estate agents really hone in on that skill? And you mentioned something before when you're sharing your journey of, you wanted to make a lot of money, but in order to do that, you'd have to sell like X amount of homes. It was just unfeasible for you at the time. That to me feels like scale, right? How can we accomplish more by doing less? And I think that sales psychology has a lot to do with our effectiveness. And it sounds like you agree. So where is your philosophy around that? And where are you spending time with that today with agents?
Yeah, two things. Number one is you got to have the right belief system. I mean, if you don't have the right belief system, it doesn't matter what I teach you. It's just not going to get you to where you want to get to as fast as you want to get to if you eventually get there. The second thing is, you know, what a lot of people don't really understand in the real estate sales industry is they think they are a real estate agent. They are a real estate sales agent. They are a real estate sales professional, and the key word is sales. Now, a lot of people have a negative association to the word selling because nobody wants to be sold and nobody wants to be, a hard closer and all that good stuff. But that's not necessarily sales. It's, literally understanding the art of influence. How can I best serve my clients? Number one, that's like we always come from a place of contribution. And when you understand influence, it just makes everything so much simpler in the aspect of like you already have a list of things you need to do that you almost never ever can get yourself to do it because of two things. Number one, you don't have the belief system. And number two, you're not effective at doing it. So where I focus most on my clients is number one, waking up the giant that lives inside of them, getting them excited about the business, getting them excited about life, like awakening that giant in them. The second thing is communication. How to get people to do what you want them to do and have them think that it was their idea to begin with. That's the key. Not how to get people to do what you want them to do because you want them to do it. If it's right for them, how can we get them to do it and have them think that it was their idea for wanting to do it? Now, imagine this. When you accomplish that skill, what happens is you become way more confident. You have way more certainty. And all of a sudden, you're taking actions without even knowing that you're taking the action because that's just who you become.
That's fascinating. So how is this similar or different from something like Socratic Selling, where you're leading with a lot of questions and helping the client kind of come to their own conclusion? Is that kind of what we're doing here?
That is kind of what we're doing because the art of asking questions is important. However, we're getting a little bit more psychological with that because you can ask a question incorrectly and all of a sudden you're getting the wrong response.
Okay.
Really understanding your client. I mean, if you want to do what's best for your client, you really got to understand, how does my client think? How do they process information? How do they make decisions? And Stefanie, this is something that I'm willing to bet that 9 out of 10 people in this industry don't really understand. And that's why, they are giving a script and the script doesn't work for them, or they feel robotic, or they feel unauthentic, etc. It's because they're really not studying and understanding the psychology behind the scripts and dialogues.
Yeah, I could not agree with that more. And you and I have talked about this in the past, where just understanding how important it is to know those wants, needs, and desires from the person on the other end of the phone, right? And doing that research to understand your ideal clients or your audience. So how do you approach that with those that you work with?
So basically, what a lot of people don't really understand is that your clients are already telling you everything anyways. You're just not listening. And listening is the foundation to all your powers of influence. You got to know what to listen for, and you got to listen for what they're not even saying through their body language, through their tone of voice, through their IQs, their gestures, their, everything. Can I just walk you guys through the sales process real quickly? So,
Please.
Have a better framework and all that good stuff. So I say that first of all, the sale, the listing agreement, the listing taken, the offer written, all that stuff, it's got to take place in your mind before it can take place in the physical universe. So we always say step number one, it's to assume the sale, it's to assume the outcome. And I know there's somebody out there that's watching this or listening to this right now saying, Chadi, but I do that, but I don't create the outcome. And there's a reason for that, because you're missing part two of step number one, and that's using assumptive language patterns. So you can't think you're going to set an appointment with a seller and say something along the line of like, Stefanie, should we get together? So there's already incongruency between what you are thinking and what you are believing and what is coming out of your mouth. So step number one, you got to assume the sale and use assumptive language patterns. Step number two, obviously, you got to build rapport. You got to build rapport. You got to learn the art and science of how do I connect with people? How do I get Stefanie to like me? How do I get Stefanie to respect me? How do I get Stefanie to trust me? Because if I can get you to like me, respect me, and trust me, then you're going to open up and share with me anything and everything that I want you to share with me so I can better understand you and help you make the right decision that's in your best interest. So step number two is building rapport. Step number three is the discovery process. This is what people like to call pre-qualifying. And Stefanie, people, do a good job with that because they pre-qualify for, like they say motivation. What do they want? What do they need? What problems can I solve for this person? What is their time frame? People of authority, ability, financial ability, and that's good on the surface, but that's where most people stop. And why my clients are converting like 75, 80% of the appointments they go on, and why they set so many more appointments is because we go a little bit further. What we want to do is we want to uncover of like, hey, how does Stefanie think? Because if I know how you think, I can impact your thinking. Hey, how does Stefanie make decisions? Because if I know how you make decisions, I could impact that decision in your favor, in my favor. How does Stefanie process information? So I can give you the information in a way that makes it a no-brainer for you. And when I do all of that, and I gathered all of that from you, then my presentation, everything that comes out of my mouth fits you perfectly. And all of a sudden, I don't even need to ask you to do business with me. You're like, well, what's the next step? How do we do this?
Mm-hmm. And this is in direct contrast to what a lot of agents do, which is they feel like they have something to prove. They feel like they're selling themselves instead of like the solution. And they come in with like numbers and stats of their own production and why they're all awesome and totally leave the client out of the conversation from A to Z.
Right. And if I could say something about that, Stefanie, it'd be this. It's like, like if I'm specifically talking about the listing presentation here, because, we're a top listing agent company, is that we're not talking about marketing. We're not talking about how we're going to market the property. Okay. Like, and then like, there's no objections. Like everybody's so focused on how do I handle the commission cutting objection? How do I, handle the, I need to think it over objection? Well, why don't you focus on how can I give them exactly what they are wanting in the way that they want it, so those objections don't come up. Like we spend, like 10% of the time working on objection handlers and 90% of the time on like, how do I show up in a way that eliminates all objections? And that's the psychology of selling. That's the art of influence.
I love it. Okay. So we are getting to that point then, right? We've done the assumptive selling. We've understood and gotten to the points where we're like at the table, we're making that happen. What does an agent need to do to really understand that client so that they can curate their presentation and offer it in a way that is so centric on their needs, where they're screaming like, yes, where do I sign? What is that missing piece?
The missing piece is that you're not spending enough time, number one, going through the discovery process, and number two, changing their state and talking about their emotional state, their logical state, their state of being. You got to take mentally from like, I'm interviewing this agent to see if I want to do business with them, to the mentality of like, I want to do business with that person. And the way that we do that, Stefanie, I'm going to give you 4 questions. Can I just be very specific here?
Yes.
Okay, like, I want to give your audience like the best of the best. So this is stuff that a lot of people pay money for. And 4 questions that should become part of like 90+% of your conversations are, number 1, Stefanie, Tell me what is important to you about blank. Fill in the blank. Tell me what is important to you about blank. Like, what is important to you about buying a home? What is important to you about moving to the city? What is important to you about selling a home? And I'm willing to bet that a lot of people do ask that question, but that's where they stop.
Mm-hmm.
You got to unpack it further. Once they give you the response to that question, then you follow up with the question of like, and what will blank, whatever the answer was to question number one, what will blank do for you? What will blank do for you? Okay, and then they're going to tell you it will do A, B, or C. And then you follow up with the question of saying, and ultimately, what will that do? See, we're going even deeper. And once they give you the response to that question, and you say, tell me more about that. Okay, see, they're telling you so much. And what you got to do in that moment is you got to be very active in your listening for the words and the cues that they are giving you. Are they describing a situation of moving away from pain or moving towards pleasure? Because at the end of the day, we make decisions based on emotion. And I want to know which is your primary emotion for making a decision. So if you are a move away from pain person, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak in a way that underneath the radar says and gets you to feel like, if I don't work with Chadi, it's going to equal more frustration, more anxiety, and more pain. Or if you're a pleasure-driven person, then I'm going to speak in a way that makes you feel that who I am is the person that's going to give you the pleasurable experience that you are wanting. Now, if you know that in your mind that I can give you that result, that outcome that you are wanting, do I need to ask for your business?
No.
Bingo.
Yeah. Okay, I want you to say those questions one more time for those taking notes from the top. So,
what is important to you about fill in the blank?
Okay.
What will fill in the blank do for you? And ultimately, what will all of that do for you? And then tell me more about that.
Okay.
Okay. But now let's take it a step further. Okay, we're going to take it a step further. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
You know, as human beings, we have the sense of taste, the sense of smell, the sense of hearing, this, sense of, sound, and the sense of, visual and all that good stuff. Okay. Now, in selling, the three primary ones that we need to focus on is, does my client need to see something? Or does my client need to hear something? Or does my client need to feel something? Like, if I know what you respond to, what is your primary mode of processing information, then I have to alter, shift, and change my way of being, my presentation to fit your modality. Mm-hmm. And if you're a visual person, then guess what? I got to say stuff along the line of like, can you see what I'm talking about?
So almost giving them the cue to turn on the more visual learning part of their brain. Absolutely. To process that information.
Absolutely. And it's very simple. And it's very simple to discover that. And I will, again, I want to give you guys a lot of value to how to identify how that person does that. So when you're over the phone, the only thing you have is, just the sound. So listen to their words. Are they using words that describe visuals? Are they using words that describe emotions? Or are they using words to describe, sound and, auditory methods? And that's your cue over the phone. Now, when you get together with them in person and you want to confirm that, and as you're speaking to them and you're asking them a question, take a look at their eyes. Take a look at their eyes. Okay. So if I ask you a question and you look up, guess what you're doing? You're making pictures. Mm-hmm. Now, if I ask you a question and you look at me directly straight in the eyes, look at that, you're listening. If I ask you a question and you look down, you're looking at your heart, you're touching your emotions. So everybody is telling you who they really are. You just need to listen and you need to pay attention. And then it becomes all about them and not about you. And you can't serve anybody unless you make it all about them.
This is so gold. I'm so glad that you're going this in depth, because this is already forcing me to just think about some of the more recent interactions I've had with consumers. And I can see this in hindsight where there are ways that I could have picked up on this for sure. So, and what I really love about this too is when I'm working with agents, a lot of them might be newer or they might be newer to this approach of selling, and it's scary,
Yeah.
right? Especially the level of unknown. And what you're allowing agents to do is, instead of go in and crush the sale, we're going in and just staying curious. And it's a lot easier to be curious because that helps you focus, just like you're saying, on the client, find ways to serve, ask more questions, go in deeper, because that's how you build a relationship and a connection, instead of going in trying to get the hard sale and then inevitably having to overcome objection after objection because you never got to the point.
Yeah, we don't do that. I'm not an advocate of, look, if I don't want my mother to be uncomfortable in a sales situation, then I'm not going to make anybody's mother uncomfortable in a sales situation. And the way that our philosophy is that we treat every single people the way we want people to treat our children when we are not present. Okay. And the only way to do that is to really let it be all about them. My number one goal in any interaction of, like, how can I make someone feel good in my presence? How can I make someone feel good in my presence? And if I make them feel good, the chances are they're going to do business with me. And if I don't, then they're not going to do business with me. And I'm unattached either way. Okay, I remove the attachment because I know that everything's going to tip in my favor by just keeping the focus on making someone feel good in my presence.
Yeah, I love that. So here's a question for you. This is the Market Authority Show. Well, I guess if you have any more to say on that, we should go further first. But then I have a question on how we're going to translate these skills to social media, because we talk a lot about marketing and social marketing. I think that anywhere you're showing up, you can exhibit these skills, but I think that context is important. So this makes a lot of sense to me over the phone or across the table. Where can we start setting up that expectation of this type of selling on a platform where it's very single-sided, like social media?
Yeah, so there's two aspects of doing this whenever you're doing anything on social media, or just, let's just say, any form of digital marketing.
Great.
Okay, if it's one-on-one through an exchange of a direct message or an exchange of an email, etc., this is what we call like digital rapport. Like, you gotta model their way of communicating with you, because everyone they know communicates that way. So, for example, if you are, say you're sending me a message that says, "How are you?" but the R is just the letter R and the U is just the letter U, then that tells me that that's how I need to speak to you. Okay, so that's a form of digital rapport. Now, whenever we're doing videos and we're writing, like, long form, sales copy, etc., what we gotta do is we gotta incorporate all three, because we don't know who is, what modality that person is using. So we gotta incorporate, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So a lot of people, like the majority of the population, is very visual. That's why they'll be like, imagine this, imagine this, imagine this. But I'm a kinesthetic. I can't imagine anything, and I ain't feeling what you're talking about. You know what I mean? So this is where you got to change it. Say, imagine once you do A, B, or C. And once you do that, it instinctively causes you to feel a specific way. Do you understand exactly? Do you see like how I'm like combining all three different modalities? So that's the way that we do it in social media and online marketing. If you watch any of my videos, you'll see a great example of that. I'm trying to touch different people at different times, and everyone can relate to it.
Yeah, and I think that that's really the power of social media too, is it allows you to have that platform and make those connections day in and day out for a really long time, which is great because it allows you to nurture over that period of time an audience of people who could transact with you when they're ready.
Right.
Right? And you've already teed it up.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I want to say something about that, Stefanie, is that, social media is not going to go away. Online marketing is not going to go away. If you don't know how to market, you got to learn how to market. And at the same time, because you're putting in the effort and learning how to market and you're putting yourself out there, you're going to naturally get business from it. But if you want to magnify the amount of business that you get from it, then this is where you got to really become an expert at human psychology, an expert at communication, because lead generation is very easy. Lead conversion is the difficult part.
Right, for sure. And that's kind of what we're talking about, right? Like, how can we do more business without worrying about generating more leads? And that's something that I got really obsessive about a couple of years ago, where it's like, I'm tired of always looking for the next contact and having to manage. Like at some point, you can only manage so many contacts and so many interactions.
Yeah.
Like, but if you actually look at the numbers and if you're pulling the right numbers, if you're monitoring the metrics, it just takes very small shifts to your conversions across the pipeline, across that sales process between like contact to appointment, appointment to signed doc, right? To escrow and so on. There's so many different ways that you can adjust that. So where is this process going into those different steps of the sales funnel?
Can you rephrase the question?
So you did such a great job of explaining how we are approaching this at the table, right?
Yeah.
There are many other times that we have to get a yes from the client aside from just getting the listing, right? So like, is there a way that we can use these kinds of tactics to like generate more referrals, for example, or to get other connections in that way?
Yeah, very, very, very good question. And I'm going to give you the answer in one of a couple of different ways. And I think the primary way is this, okay? It's really answering the question and really understanding, okay? How can I become the kind of person that everybody wants to work with?
Mm.
How can I become the kind of person that everybody wants to work with?
Oh, I love that.
There's people that you personally know, maybe on a business level or on a personal level, and they are in a specific niche, a specific kind of business, and they don't need to ask you for a referral, do they? They don't.
Yeah.
Because you love their way of being, and you know that they can serve your clients at a very high level, that you will go out of your way trying to find them business to send their way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm willing to bet that that person really did their homework on really identifying how can they become the kind of person that people want to work with and people want to refer business to. So I will leave it at this. This is your big homework assignment today. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, your homework assignment is this. How can I become the kind of person that people want to work with and refer business to? And then what I want you to do is wherever Stefanie is posting this, I want you to leave your response in the comments. And if I need to step in and critique it and help you get it right, I'm going to do that. Tag me in it, and I will make sure you're taken care of.
I love that. I was really hoping that you'd have like an acronym. Like, can't you just give us an acronym to do it? But it's really not about that. It's a lot. It's so personalized to your own skills and your own experience and where you're meeting the audience that you're trying to get in front of or that ideal clients. And it's really what makes every individual unique in this industry. Like that's what's going to set you apart. So while my knee-jerk reaction is like, just give us a formula, it's never that simple, is it?
Well, it's if I give you a very specific formula, it's like literally handing you a script, and that script doesn't fit every single person. Like you said, every single person is unique in their own way. And I think what people are secretly craving more than anything else in the world right now is acceptance. Okay. They are craving, attention. That's why they're doing the things that they do. That's a lot of times out of their character to get that attention. And I think if you can touch people just on, that emotional, psychological level, and they'll give you all their attention, they'll give you all the referrals, and they'll give you everything. So how you are with person A doesn't necessarily mean that that's how you be with person B, etc. And to speak a little bit more about that, it's like there are a lot of gurus out there, including myself, that have real estate, scripts for every single scenario. But what you got to understand is that script was written based on my personality and my selling style. And yes, it works 100% for me and those that it fits their personality and selling style. So if I give it to someone that doesn't fit my personality and selling style, it's not going to work for them. And this is where the personalization aspect comes into play. And I'll tell you, the framework, I've already given you guys the framework. If you've already done it, it's like, hey, listen and pay attention. They're telling you exactly who you need to be, how you should be, what you should say, what you should do, how you should act, how you should walk, and everything else. And if you do that, then they're going to be like, wow, this person really gets me. Like Stefanie, you meet people, and then in a moment, you feel like you've known somebody forever. Mm-hmm. And then you meet some people, And in a moment, you're thinking to yourself, how can I get away from this person as best as
Yeah,
possible?
100%.
You know? And it's because the personalities, just don't match.
Mhm.
And this is where you, in essence, authentically, keyword is authentically, become a chameleon.
And that's fine. It's okay. And it's so natural not to jive with different people, right? Like, or with other people. So I was working with an agent who she's a newer agent. She's so amazing at what it is she does. She's going to be a rock star. But she had this interaction with a client that just did not feel right. She just got that gut check. We talk a lot about the gut check, and she just did not have it with this individual. But it was a high dollar, a high volume listing. Like, she really wanted the opportunity. So she had to weigh that out. And it's okay if it's not the right fit, and what that allows you to do is you have to look at it, and maybe you agree, I hope you do, is you have to look at it as an opportunity to give yourself the space to find the people who are going to be the right fit, who you can create really exceptional experiences for. And that's what it's about.
Yeah. So, Stephanie, I will say it like this, at the end of the day, it shouldn't be just about the opportunity. It should be about doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And you have to come from a place of knowing that you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea and not everybody's going to be your cup of tea. Therefore, that when you generate, you don't have to tolerate and you can just move on to putting your energy in everything else. And know that, when you are presented with such an opportunity, you're really not competing with anyone because you have no competition. And you're not even competing with yourself. All you're trying to do is say, can I serve this person? And if I can, then yeah, do whatever it takes to get them to see that or feel that, or really understand that who you are is the best fit, and whatever happens, happens, but you're not going to win them all the time.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I couldn't agree
But you
more.
will win more often when you apply these strategies.
And it'll feel better.
100%.
I think that this is the way the industry is going. And I think this is a big shift. And it sounds like you are at the very forefront of this type of selling, with a real focus on serving, right? Which is what it's all about. So I love that.
It's all about, it's like, look, I mean, Zig Ziglar said it best a long time ago, and his words were, if you help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want. And then, the old model was ask and you shall receive. And now the new model is give and you shall receive. Be a giver, be the person that gives the value. That's how you become the go-to person. Like, it's like, when you do enough of that, especially now you have the power of marketing online and showing up as that giver every single day, you really don't have to ask for much.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't have to ask for much. So be a giver. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I love it so much. You have provided so much value here in this short amount of time for those who can and should want to take it a step further with you, hear more about what you've got to offer. Where can they find you?
Yeah, we'll make it very simple. I think the best place to go to would be takemorelistingsnow.com.
Love it.
I mean, everybody wants more listings, so go to takemorelistingsnow.com. And then you can find me on social media, on YouTube. We have a lot of free material. There's nothing for sale anywhere online. You couldn't buy anything from me, even if you wanted to. So go grab the value there yourself for free.
I love it. I just want to acknowledge you for being such a contributor to the industry. You have so much knowledge, just a wealth of knowledge from your time in the industry. And I love how open you are to giving it to those of us who need it. Boots on the ground people just trying to do the work and serve their community. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. And I'll throw that right back at you. I've been watching your videos and following you online, and I'm like, yes, this is the way. And it just complements each other so well. So you keep up the good work as well, too.
I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Really, really appreciate it. And guys, definitely check out what Chadi's got online. I'll have everywhere to reach you in the show notes. I'll make sure that it's all dialed in. So guys, check that out in the description. And I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.